Hey, are you recording this already, Austin?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Oh,
Wait,
cool. Well, just want to get into it, I guess.
let's do it, man. Let's dive in.
Okay. I guess yeah. I'll just start. Like I mentioned earlier in the when we were messaging. So I followed you for a while. I don't know if you followed me or not, but yeah.
I
So like
followed
I've
you
kind
on
of seen.
Instagram, but like your Instagram is bigger than my Twitter. My Twitter is bigger than your Twitter. Like, so it's
Yeah,
like
we're like
I've been
flipped.
followed you on Twitter, on Instagram, but I didn't
Yeah,
know this. That's just where our domains are. But yeah,
yeah. Um, so that tweet that I screenshotted and sent to you guys like a week ago, where it was kind of like a meme.
yeah,
You said like when you tell the sport coach that cleans don't translate to being powerful for your sport.
yeah.
So I made a YouTube video like in response to that tweet. I don't know if you saw it or
I did not.
not.
Oh, I need to go watch it. Seriously.
Okay, yeah. So I made a YouTube video basically responding to that, and before I just want to hear you elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Because I have so many follow up questions that could like take this conversation in so many different angles.
Right.
But first, I just want to hear you elaborate before I get into those questions.
Sure. Yeah. I'll give some caveats too, just to be completely clear. Right. One, that tweet was pretty much hyperbole, and two, the demographic of who I talk to. So, like, my Twitter audience is high school football coaches, moron high school football coaches. Let's keep that in perspective. Two, it was a little bit of hyperbole, so I'm being a little bit exaggerative because let's get this out of the way. Olympic lifts have passed the test of time. They have. Like, it just from a common sense standpoint, if coaches that are smart have used them for this long, to say they're invaluable is silly. You know what I'm saying? So what I mean by that is this, and I'll just give you my personal experience. And it's just my experience, right? It can be completely different for everyone else and why I decided to go the route that I did. So I look at it from this point as far as transferring power to sport, right? A lot of people tell me that the clean is really fast, right? You're going to get a lot of rate of force development. You're going to get high velocities at higher loads. It's really good bang for your buck because it accomplishes a lot of things in one movement. Uh, People throw out the word coordination a lot with it, which I want to deep dive on that word. I'm not going to unpack that. We can unpack that together. And one thing I noticed was trying to always ask myself the question, what made the clean special? What made the clean special? Where is it making me more powerful? How is it applying to sport? And then the biggest point that I'm going to make is opportunity cost with training time, because it's going to go more away from, is the exercise itself powerful? But that's not the time constraint, and where we work to train athletes is the actual question of what do we choose to apply. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
On the technical aspect of things, I don't think the return on investment of the technicality of the lift to squeeze every ounce of juice out of it, especially in the setting that I work in. I see a lot of coaches go one of two ways. They try to go really heavy and it looks like reverse jumping jack starfish catches and it's awful. Or they just decide to go light and focus on technique and they're just flipping 155-pound hang cleans and they're actually never getting adaptation. Right. So you're asking yourself, okay, if we're trying to get powerful, we're trying to have force and velocity at the same time. If I can minimize complexity with that and still get the same result and get it quicker, why would I choose that modality? Right. So like I had a linebacker who was a really good player, and an excellent lifter. I mean, he could clean three bills at 175 pounds, really good high school player, ended up playing D3. And he he would still take a trap bar jump at 345 and move it for like 1.75, 1.6 meters per second. I mean, absolutely crazy explosive. So it just kept hitting my mind. Will, I want you to understand, I haven't just believed this my whole life. Like, I was obsessed with the Olympic lifts. Now, I ain't near as good of them as you are, like not even close. Like, I can say I clean 315, but that's actually not impressive in your world. So we used them for a long time. I used them when I was in college for every sport. And I just kept asking myself, like, if I'm going to use the clean and get good enough at it, I've got to spend time doing it in order to get what I need out of it. When I think about training time, the application of specificity to power and sport is actually going to be more helpful in gait cycle, sprinting, and jumping. That's just where I have. And I decided that because I collect a ton of data. I was like, I'm going to take this out. And I actually had to be convinced by my intern. My intern, Brandon, at the time was like, hey, let's give it a shot. And I was hesitant. But I said, let's take it out. Now, that could be a testament to being saying, I don't program it well enough. I don't coach it well enough. That's on the table. I'm not saying that but I still don't believe that that's the case, because I always wonder if you have, depending on training time, right? Let's say a college program has 4 days a week, 90 minutes, right? They have 360 minutes a week to train, and you reverse engineer the skills and power that they need to be really good at their sport now. Where does the clean fall on that hierarchy? And then if you come down on that minutes level even more, I think it goes even further down depending on the time that you have, simply from return on investment in time, if that makes sense. And then lastly, and I'll let you counter here or whatever you want to bring up, is when you watch the clean, at least from when I see like high level, like if you just like scroll hook grip on Instagram, right? Like the best in the world, the way that they need to externally rotate their femurs, they push off the outside edges of their foot, the way that they have to meet the bar, because the better you are at the clean, you actually meet the bar at zero velocity. If you're good, right? You want to meet the bar at zero velocity, so there's actually less deceleration the better you are at the lift. And I was just looking at the kinematics of it thinking, I need to train other things, because we sprint through the ball of our foot. Our stability demand on our hips and the way that we run and move don't line up with the movement, right? So that's just kind of where I'm at, and we can unpack wherever you want to go from here.
Yeah. Okay. So I would reject like the framing that you used. So my follow up question would be, um, so you used to program cleans
Yes.
with the purpose of what? To improve power output?
Yeah. Power output, rate of force development, trying to move weight fast, trying to be
Okay.
sudden, triple
Okay.
extension, the things you hear most coaches say, right? Especially, young coaches.
Okay. So in your mind, what's the best way to improve somebody's ability potential to produce high power outputs?
Sprinting.
Okay. Totally agree with that. Um, okay. Great. So more from like an abstract type of framework here. Power output is what? Power output is force times velocity. We can agree. I think we would all agree with that.
Right. It's physics. Right. No.
Yep. So if we want to improve somebody's ability to produce high power outputs, we need to maximize both ends of that spectrum. Okay. Sorry, that's my dog. He's going somewhere. We have to maximize both ends of that spectrum. Improve the ability to produce high forces, improve the ability to contract fast, right? Now, so then I don't frame Olympic lifts as improving one's ability to produce power, because you're really just playing in that middle zone. You're not moving the needle in the force development. You're not moving the needle in like improving velocity or contraction speed, anything like that. So then my next follow up question would be, what are you replacing the Olympic lifts with if you're framing them in the framework of we want to produce more power? Because
Really,
I
three
would
things.
totally,
Yeah.
I would totally reject that like the trap bar jump or any sort of loaded jump is an adequate replacement.
Okay. I've heard that from a lot of good coaches. Coaches I really respect. I want you to unpack that and help me understand more, because I don't know why you reject it. But let me answer your first question first, and we can get to that.
Mm-hmm.
One, the fact, like, if my kids can clean well but can't skip, that's a problem, right? Remember who I'm working with. Okay. So you're talking sprinting, loaded sprints, um, plyometrics, jumps, throws, all the things that are going to get contraction speed, right? And I'm going to get my force in from all my lists. Like if I'm going to get general strength from force, I'm going to get them from everywhere else I'm holding a barbell, right? Still highly value the barbell. I can get it twisted. But one of the things we do for receiving force is altitude drops. I mean, the force plate data from an altitude drop is crazy. I mean, it's and trying to relay it or compare it to like, the 5 to 7 times body weight force you're going to get at ground contact in a sprint seems to be really effective. And I've seen jumps go through the roof, sprint times go through the roof, and development happen. Now, I'm not saying that there's multiple ways to get the job done, right? I'm not saying anybody's wrong, but that's what I use to replace it. But also the skills that come with training sprinting things that have to do with running, even throwing a med ball in the kinematics of throwing, right? So using my hips and lead leg blocking, the way you hit bombs in softball, Yoakum, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like those things, I hate to use the word sport specific, but it's just movement skills that are going to move the needle for a kid to be better at their sport a lot quicker than I would spending time using an Olympic lift. Now, I'm mostly just talking about the clean and snatch. I actually am a huge fan of the jerk, and we jerk all the time. So I don't include the jerk in my ideology here. I'm just speaking on clean and snatch. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Before I ask my next follow up question, do you want me to unpack the why I'm not like a huge
Yeah.
proponent of the loaded jumps? Okay.
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. So with the loaded jump, Austin, we talked about this on your podcast. I'm pretty sure we did. But
Yep.
yeah. So do you know why something like a trap bar jump does produce the most power, Cody? Like why that is?
Well, if I had to answer that question, one, being able to, your center of mass, the load's already in your center of mass. So you can directly go up. So it's more stable, right? So you're in a more stable position to lift more weight, right? And you can move heavier weight faster. Maybe the bar is a little bit higher. You're in a more beneficial angle to be able to accelerate quicker. You're in a little more advantageous position. Those are the things that come to mind. Tell me if I'm wrong or tell me what you think.
Yeah, no, okay. So first thing I want to like state is I don't care about that power output number because I care more about the stimulus that's being the global stimulus that's being experienced by the organism. But so the reason that you produce higher power with something like a trap bar jump is because like we said, power is the combination of force and velocity. So let's just take a counter movement trap bar jump. You are you're going to dip, you're going to counter movement, and then you're going to accelerate back up. So with the distance that you're moving, you're allowing your center of mass to move long enough to accelerate long enough to reach a high enough velocity. And then on the force side of it, you have the preloading, which is generating force. And then when you redirect your center of mass, you have even more time to produce force. So therefore, you're going to have this combination that's going to produce high power. With the clean, you don't get that. With the snatch, you don't get that unless you go from the hang. But that's much harder to measure because are you measuring bar velocity like in a snatch or a clean? Are you going to measure bar speed or are you going to measure ground contact like force into the ground? I don't think anyone has the answer to that question. Which one's
Right.
the right thing to measure? So that's why like a trap bar jump or a barbell jump is going to produce higher power outputs.
So
But then,
I'm going to stop you real quick just to clarify
yep,
so we're on the same page. From what I heard, I'm just going to relay it back to you. Right. So is that it's apples to oranges because the trap bar has a longer runway or higher
agree.
impulse, right? It
Yes,
has more. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Think of it like a plane on a runway.
Yep.
You got more distance to cover, more acceleration, higher velocity, and you have more time to produce more force.
Gotcha.
So that's why the power output is higher. So then when you think about a clean or a snatch, pick any variation. I don't care, hang, blocks, a full, a power, anything like that, a tempo, a split. What other stimulus do you think is placed on the body if you're framing it as a power stimulus? Like, do you recognize that there's a more global stimulus on the body as a whole compared to like something like a trap bar jump, like triple flexion, um,
Sure. Sure.
or just like the simple fact of producing force into an external body of mass, only to have that external body of mass be directed right back onto your body, and then again have to accelerate that body of mass upon the catch. Like,
Yeah.
did you recognize all that stuff too?
Sure. Yeah. 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 For sure. But
Okay.
it was more of an ROI of all of that happening. How valuable is that when redirecting? Why can't we grapple another human and get similar things? Why can't we get, you know, how much value is dropping into triple flexion fast? Like why
Very,
is
very valuable.
talk me through it because like talk me through where for like field and court sport athletes was what the topic is of being able to like the fact that like the best cleaners like for example the linebacker I was telling you who was 170 could clean 3 plates, that's what he was good at. He could snap under the bar, he could pull under the bar. Like his third pull was really good. But to me, I was like, okay, that just makes him good at the clean. What stimulus? Why is that so important?
Yeah, because I kind of reject the dynamic correspondence part too. Like, do you believe in dynamic correspondence? Because I don't. So
Really?
it's all general.
Oh,
Yeah.
now we're having fun. Okay, let's get into this. Oh yeah, so
Okay. Geez, we're
screw
gonna
you,
need more time.
Verkashansky.
Yeah. Okay. I made a YouTube video about this too. So dynamic correspondence. What are the three components again? What is it? Direction, amplitude of movement, rate of force development. There's one other thing I can't remember right now. Um, I just think those are such moot things to worry about because they're irregardless of the actual stimulus on the body. Um, but okay, to answer your question, like, what was the question? What's the purpose of dropping into triple flexion?
Like,
Right?
what's the value of getting into triple flexion that
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that
Okay,
helps translate? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So then again, I don't care about
But you're
translating.
switching the paradigm there. I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I reject that framework of transferring to sport.
Okay.
So, but I think the general skill, general ability to navigate your center of mass around another external body of mass and leveraging your mass against that mass is valuable.
Let me ask
Generally.
you this: what if I got a guy that sucks at a clean, but knows how to leverage a dude on the line of scrimmage better than anybody on the entire team? How like to me, if I see that more often than not, that ideology doesn't match up
Yeah, but
because
I don't think that
specificity still
negates
matters.
I don't think that negates the value of still general training of navigating your center of mass around another external body of mass. You know what I mean? Because like we both would agree that sprinting is really a great thing to do, provides a really high quality stimulus, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if a kid can't sprint? What if he trips over himself when he sprints? I know it's a hypothetical, but we have to be able to like engage in this hypothetical. If a kid trips over himself every time he tries to do a linear sprint, does that negate the value of a sprint generally?
Sure, I get that. No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, being able to drop into triple flexion, navigate your center of mass around another external body of mass, and leverage your mass against that mass, highly valuable for anybody.
I would have a hard time disagreeing with that. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying?
Yep.
With with that general training quality and stimulus. Like I said before, I don't think the Olympic lifts. You can't negate them. They've passed the test of time. It's just a silly argument. But to me the word that's popping in my head is, hold on,
All right. We're good.
you back. It's like the word coordination comes into play, and then redirecting mass at a velocity that's acting on you. Sure, yeah, I can get with that, right? Even though it doesn't look like it on the outside, but dropping from 36 inches onto the floor and making sure you land in a quarter squat has enormous amounts of mass to ground working on you, and being able to do that is a really big feat of strength that's less complex. Does that
I
make sense?
agree. Yeah, no, so I agree with that point, but we're going to disagree on what is more valuable.
Okay.
So, like, I agree with your point that an altitude drop, tremendous stress. Great. The difference, like, if we're going to make a dynamic correspondence point, I think there is more value in having that external body of mass on you. I still think there's a ton of value in dropping from high heights. I do it. I have athletes do it. Um, but I do think there's an added value when there is an external body of mass, even if you're dropping shit, what, 2 centimeters from your pull to the full squat or something. So there we're going to disagree on which one is more valuable. Because I think, yeah, actually catching a body of mass is more valuable in terms of like we always hear the term like tissue resiliency, tissue robustness for contact. Uh, Actually brings me to another question then. Do you frame any of your training through like the lens of we're doing this for tissue resiliency or robustness? I don't, but I know
I
a lot of
mean,
people do.
putting on general mass is good for that. I mean, but
Yeah, yeah.
when I say
So
tissue conditioning, I'm mostly talking about things that happen on, like, when we train on the field, not as much in the weight room,
yeah,
unless
so
it's plyometrically driven. Because I think that tissue conditioning is important for ground contact times and velocity and plyometrics, but
Yeah.
not with a
So
barbell.
this might be kind of an irrelevant point to this discussion then, since we agree on that part. But people will often frame things as like long duration isometrics, slow eccentrics, as a way to train for like tissue resiliency and like contact prep, and just
I
like
like both of those things, but not for that.
agreed. Um, and it's like, really? Like nothing's going to prepare you for contact than having a piece of steel, external body of mass landing on you, and then you have to use the muscles of the spine to stabilize the spine, to then um, use the lower limbs to drive your center of mass back up. So we don't need to get caught on that. But
So
I haven't.
it's hard
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
disagree with that point. But how is it just up to the coach of being able to coach it well? Because what if you've got a long limb basketball athlete that the clean just don't fit well? You know,
Great question. Um, I think that makes the Olympic lifts more desirable.
really. Like,
Okay.
what if the kid's got a 9 foot wingspan? You know what I'm saying? I'm not that
Yeah.
big. I'm just exaggerating. But if a kid has a 7'4" wingspan and he's 6'9", and his front rack, like good luck, and he's got femurs
Yep.
longer. He's got a short torso and he's got long femurs.
Yep. Um, so I'll admit, so I frame things. I know Austin frames things as like a lot of the purpose for our training is to solve movement problems, right? Do you ever say that kind of thing? I say
Sure.
that
Oh
all
yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Um, like, yeah, getting into a front rack is really hard for those guys. Solve the movement problem. I think that's really good for them. Um,
Well, the
yeah.
thing is why is it good for them when that's a problem they're never going to solve on the court ever?
Yeah, but you could say that about anything in weight room.
I know that's what I'm saying. Like, so
You're never gonna back squat on a
that's
court.
that's not a movement problem solution in my opinion. A back squat's just trying to get our legs strong.
Well, yeah, but every time we move, we're solving a movement problem. Maybe we could
I
use
guess I
another
can get with you on
example.
that. Like, if I'm trying
Maybe
to
like
squat to a certain level to get a certain strength from the legs, I have to be able to move in order to accomplish said goal. If we frame it that way, then yeah, I can get with that.
yeah, I think generally you're solving a movement problem. I think that's really good. And that's my position on there. Um, like it's really I'm 5'10". I have like a body for weightlifting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's pretty easy for me to get to a front rack. It's
Right.
pretty easy for me to squat. But if you have like a 6'8" guy and you're asking them to do something that's hard, I think there's a lot of value in that.
Just in general.
Yeah, Austin, did you type something?
Yeah, he put in a little thing we should touch on. If you'll look at the chat, we can get to it. It's a good point.
Why can't grappling? Want to just ask it, Austin?
The second one.
Unless you can.
Can you hear me? I don't want to
Yeah.
fuck your
Yeah,
guys' talk up if it's going through.
No, I get
yeah,
it.
Okay. If I cut out, I'll just type in the questions that I feel like you guys have touched on, and maybe it's worth going deeper into. One of the things that Cody started talking about, and I don't know if we totally got into the weeds there, and I think Will, you can probably go into it, but you talked about moving the external body of mass. That's our general stimulus we're trying to get done with the clean. Um, what is your thoughts on, like, why can't grappling be done in a way in which it is taking care of that general quality of moving that external body mass? Is it because we're able to load the clean more, or is that a suitable variety or variation of getting the stimulus of moving the external body of mass?
yes, yeah. No, it is a viable option to use to replace that part of the clean. I guess really what it comes down to, like my opinion is, as far as the global stress on the organism, I hate the term checking boxes, but I don't think anything checks more boxes simultaneously than a heavy clean or a snatch. So like, yeah, uh, you are getting in and out of end ranges under high speeds, high velocities, under high stress and duress. We already talked about like the tissue resiliency point. Talk about navigating your center of mass around an external body of mass and vice versa. We can go into all the, I think they're kind of dumb points, but like the rate of force development point, triple extension point, um, tower point, they're all true, but I don't really care about that. Um,
Let me ask you this, Will. So,
yeah,
do you believe, just from hearing you talk and getting a little bit more of an understanding, do you believe that specificity has a place in training for strength coaches?
Oh, dude. I really don't. I really don't.
Okay.
But
Let me ask you
I
this.
guess I could be convinced otherwise. I
Sure.
haven't been yet. I would need to hear a really convincing argument. Um, but
So when you talk about movement problems, right, and being able to solve movement problems, and when I'm talking about, if you're talking about just general force, yeah, like that, I don't think general force really, like in a barbell of trying to add mass, add force qualities onto your body. That's really general. But as far as being able to do things like being able to cross, like if you need to be able to cross over whenever you run, like if you want to guard somebody in basketball, you've got to be able to cross over. If you want to guard somebody, period, you need to be able to cross over and come back to center of mass. And when it comes to, because what it sounds like to me are differing philosophies.
yes,
Your big
frameworks.
time general but high octane stimulus is where you like to lean towards. Tell me if
Yes.
I'm wrong. I'm just
No,
framing,
yes,
right.
that's
So,
correct. Yep.
and I look at training from a skill standpoint, and I still think, now remember, I work mostly with 14 to 19-year-olds. I believe there is a requisite for the general kid. There's freaks out there that are completely outliers. There's only so many skills I can get really, really good at. And if my value to my head coach is to help them win games, I've got to find a way to add value in those games. Meaning, not necessarily, I'm not talking about being able to dribble a ball, right? Or being able to understand the technical or the tactical side of football, right? Understanding concepts of coverages. That's not what I'm saying, right? But I can teach a kid who, like, and I can relay it to a receiver of understanding how to stem a route and understanding we're going to train how fast you can run and be able to cut off different parts of your foot, right? And being able to feel, and then, all right, so if we need to be able to be strong from the foot, from the ground up, we're not going to be able to cut well in any of if we're not relatively strong at the foot. If we can't control the velocity of our body and understand that when I get on the field and start running routes, that's going to be a familiar feel. And those are skills I'm willing to teach on top of just of all of the physical stimulus. So high velocity sprinting, high plyometrics, highly loaded lifts, all the things that we do to physically prepare athletes. And that comes to the time constraint portion of it, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to
Of
disagree with
training.
you on any of that. Um, like as coaches, that's our job to be prudent, right? And to make the judgment of with the population I work with the time I have, the space I have, the equipment I have, taking all those things into consideration and just asking ourselves, is the juice worth the squeeze? Um, I'm not going to disagree with you on any of that. No.
Sure. So that's where I feel like, because to me, and you're like, if you had 120 minutes a week to train a kid to prepare him for sport, you're going to clean him, you're going to snatch him. That's what you believe in. I'm not. Even if I have 400 minutes a week, I'm still not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's just what I believe in.
I got
So,
a question
but I
for you.
think that matters.
Yeah. I got a question for you. Going back to the power part,
Okay.
do you do anything for upper body power?
Jerk.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Then we agree. Yeah, okay. So you
Yeah.
don't do, I mean, I'm not saying this stuff is bad, but I think it's a pretty low quality stimulus. Things like supine med ball throws, you know what I'm talking about? Like Cal
Okay.
Hughes kind of
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I don't. Only I do a lot of med ball throwing, but a lot of it is more one is just teaching kids intent with a very low hanging fruit, like move your body fast. It's more of a skill than it is a stimulus. Like that's number one. But two is like I deal heavily in rotational athletes and stuff. Like the skill of a kid of being able to
Hey,
internally
he's
rotate.
laughing.
What?
Keep
Will
going,
loves
Cody.
rotational
Sorry.
power.
Okay. Um, but I actually think I saw you guys discussing rotational power and just completely crapping all over it. I think that's where I was going. But the skill of feeling what it means to, like, when I'm talking about a throw, like your lead leg has to block, be stable, be eccentrically strong in internal rotation of the hip to send kinetic energy into your hands anyway. That's just me reinforcing skill. I don't think med ball throws with a 4-pound med ball is an actual stimulus. I think I'm training
Yeah,
skills and
we
reinforcing
agree.
over and over and over and over, because most of the time the kids that don't hit bombs, they could be weak as piss. That's fine. They need to get stronger. But half the time if their bat speed's there, but they're not making great contact, or they can't create bat speed in the first place because they have energy leaks. So I'm going to partner with my coach and add a little bit of sauce to reinforce what's going to help them get in the lineup now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to make sure I come back to the actual point, because you were talking about, let's get back to power. You don't do anything with med balls. Upper body power. Yes, we jerk, we push press, we landmine press. I know landmine's not near as loaded heavy. It's a little more unstable. We overhead press.
Yeah, no, the reason I asked you was because like you'll see these some coaches who like they're having their kids do like supine medicine ball throws, and like when you're producing outputs in sports, we're gonna go back to the dynamic correspondence thing. Uh, it like the outputs still rely heavily on the ground contact force, the force into the ground, and the angle of force. And usually the upper limbs are working as a complementary aspect to the lower limbs in producing the force into whatever you're producing the force to, swinging a
100%.
baseball bat, punching someone in football, finishing through contact in basketball, whatever it is. So no,
that's
that was
also that's another reason why I believe, and you may think I'm an idiot, and that's fine. I believe in purposeful hip drive off of the bench during bench press with feet into the ground.
I agree with that too.
Like, if people want to yell at me that my butt's not staying on the bench, I'm not competing in powerlifting anytime soon. As long as we don't hurt ourselves and we're getting in good positions from the start, I don't care. You know, because I think that ground energy.
With you there.
Right. Yeah. So that I was like, that's another upper body power is bench press, but done in a way with ground force with legs.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cody, do you have to go in 5 minutes?
I've got about 10.
Okay. So one of the things,
I'll stretch it to 15. We got 15. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about one thing that was asked on Twitter. And then I want to wrap up Will's thoughts too on the Olympic lifts. Because the very first thing that Cody, and I know Cody, you've mentioned this a bunch, is your big argument is the time to teach and the return on investment. Will, is your argument then the final overall arching argument that the return on investment of teaching the Olympic lifts is just worth it in general, or that there's a better way to teach it and it's overemphasized in how long it takes to teach the Olympic lifts? What's the overarching message on the time to teach method? Because I know that's a big point of Cody's and a lot of the anti-Olympic lifting method.
Yeah. Can you repeat all three of those questions again?
Yeah, I think it's just the time to teach, like the overarching, your thought process on the overarching time to teach. Like
how long would it take, or how valuable is it to spend the time to teach it to get to a point where you're getting the adaptations? Now, I think we've touched on a little bit. You thought the process of solving that problem and teaching it in the first place you see is valuable. Like, I remember you saying that. Like, so I heard that part, but the age old debate with Olympic lifts is it takes too long to get for it to be valuable, and most people turn around and go, "You suck at coaching it."
Yeah, okay.
That's where I want to touch on. Yes.
Okay. I would never. So I agree. I agree generally that most coaches who shy away from using them probably are bad at coaching them and probably are bad at doing them. But I would never use that as an argument in favor of using them. I just think it's a poor argument. But I do find that to be true. Like, you look at Max Schmarzo, probably can't fucking hang clean. Like, I mean, not to shit on him, but it's probably true. The other example would be like Nick DeMarco. Like, he made a post on Instagram like a long time ago, and it was a video of his athletes doing hang cleans, or maybe they were cleaning from the floor, and it was a post about the reason he doesn't use them anymore, and his athletes sucked at doing them. But in his post, he was like, "These are athletes that I think are have pretty solid technique." And it's like, well, yeah, if you're performing in that way, you're not getting much of a stimulus, and like, if you think that's good technique, your bar is pretty low. But no, moving beyond that point, yeah, I just think I would just disagree with most people that I do think the juice is worth the squeeze. Now, I'll say, like, I work with softball athletes. We train at the university. We train 2 days a week. The coach gives me 40 minutes with them, and then there's always these breaks of like a week and a half off here and there. So I don't have my softball athletes use them, but all my other teams, we do use them because I think I can get people to do it relatively well within I mean, you give me 4 days a week, give me a week, and I can get them hang snatching pretty well, hang cleaning pretty well. Then we just keep refining it over time. I just do think it is worth the juice is worth the squeeze. Oh, and then so Cody, here's a question for you. So I just made a post on Instagram a couple days ago. Um, just yes or no, would you agree with me when I say you're better off slow cooking the training process,
Absolutely.
especially with high school athletes?
Oh yeah, it's no question.
Yeah. So then another argument I hear against using the Olympic lifts is that it takes a long time and we want to start getting adaptations right away. It's just like, why is like, yeah, slow cook, dude. Slow cook that shit. Slow cook, get them moving the barbell well. Um, I don't need a freshman college 18-year-old girl loading up the clean right away. We got 4 years. By the time she's a sophomore, she's going to be doing it really well. The slow cook thing, I think is true. And then for some reason, I think people look past the Olympic lifts. They're like, nah, I want to get adaptations right now. Let's start loading up a trap bar. Let's start doing other things. So
I
I
got you.
find that to be a really interesting phenomenon that people overlook the slow cooking aspect of Olympic lifts.
Yeah, it
And just
seems
start trying to get at
counterintuitive.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see what
I
you
don't
mean
even
by
know. Did
that.
I answer your question, Austin?
Yeah, yeah, that was really good. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think I already knew the answer to that question after you covered your stance on movement solutions and general stimulus. You know, like okay,
Yeah.
like I can see your standpoint, man. It's fine, and I still disagree with how I'm going to approach train athletes. But I mean, if we don't, what are we doing? Are we just an echo chamber? Like we're not. You know, that's why we got
Yeah.
on this call in the first place.
Yeah.
So
So
I think that goes with
I don't know if I have any other follow-up questions.
we
Um,
got one from Twitter, which is, and I think that kind of touches on it from Cody. I know you tweeted back at this, but the question was basically like, why are we still arguing about this, or why are we talking about this, or why is it worth it in the first place to talk about? So I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on like why do you guys feel like it's important to have these conversations when it's been debated for so long? And I think it's been shittily debated. This is actually one of the best ones I've seen actually talked about, where you guys are actually framing it, not just going off some rabbit holes. But anyways, that was something on Twitter that I saw that I think would be interesting to kind of talk about, like why is it worth it to talk about these things and argue and debate these things?
people aren't actually freaking debating this. They're screaming across the field like soccer moms, not actually going to freaking square up and throw hands and actually or bring to the table an actual intelligent conversation and learn from each other. We can still disagree. It doesn't matter. There's plenty in this world for us to have. You know, the people that say that are just a bunch of pussies, and that's just the truth. Like, you're not actually debating it. Oh, it's holding the field back. No, the only thing holding the field back is you not being good enough as a coach. That's you. I ain't been held back. I don't know about y'all. I've been fine. I went and got mine. And so did y'all. You know, like I just think that's so soft. I mean, it kind of pissed me off when I read that. Like, do we need to keep holding the profession back? Like, bro,
yeah,
you're bearing your own chains, dog.
I agree. I saw that comment on there. It's like, dude, go make your own content. Like that's why I don't like to comment on other people's posts. Like if I disagree with someone, I'm just gonna go make my own content about it.
That's a
No,
good point. I need to do that more often. I just like to freaking fire off and
so
yell at people.
um so my answer would be I think probably 10 years ago, my position was more of the mainstream position that there's just more proponents of Olympic lifting. And now I actually think the mainstream position is more of Cody's position. And um and that's why I'm trying to shift it back, I guess. But I think there's so many anti-Olympic lifting posts, and the way they get posted is like whoever's making the post thinks it's like some mic drop moment. And I'm just like, dude, you're not actually the one. This is like such a gay way to like say it, but I'm gonna say it anyways. You're not the anti-establishment person by opposing Olympic lifts. Like that used to be the anti-establishment position, I guess,
Right.
10 years ago. But now I think that is more the mainstream. So I guess I'm trying to shift it back, and I'm trying to do a better job of framing it because I hate the rate of force development argument. I hate the peak power argument. I'm trying to frame it differently. Like, if you follow Brandon Accardi, he's great about it. And I think Angus Bradley frames it in a really good way. Like Chris Speed, Kean O'Brien, a lot of guys who like I've gotten to know really well. They frame the debate in a lot better terms than it has been in the past. And yeah, that I mean that's why I still talk about it because I'm usually just responding to other people who who disagree. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of coaches flap, like, think about, I look like it from a, 80-10-10, right? You look at it a bell curve, like the majority are going to flap in the wind and flow wherever the mainstream goes. And critical thinking is hard to find, and the fact that when it does move away, okay, the mainstream has gone away from Olympic lifting. Guess who stood 10 toes down? You did, Will, right? Because that's what it is. And then it's going to shift back at some point, I'm sure, in 10, 15 more years. Are the people in my boat, am I going to stay 10 toes down if I truly believe that? Can you stand on your own 2 feet, make your own content, put skin in the game? And most of the people that are complaining haven't posted anything that they truly believe and try to stand on it when somebody comes and wants to disagree, or come to the table and say, hey, no gotcha moments, no ad hominem. Let's discuss like the pros we say we are, and it's the soccer mom debate that actually embarrasses the profession, in my opinion, not this.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, that was fucking good. Yeah. You talked about how like everybody's kind of shifting over to the Olympic. Like it almost makes me want to go Olympic lift every time I fucking see that. It's like the same thing with like the 8 hours of sleep. It's like they dropped the 8 hours of sleep. Like it's like
so
a
gay.
magic. Like if you're gonna say it's like it's been said 14 million times, but they say it in a way of like you said, Will, where it's like I just fuck yeah, boys. Look what I did. It's like, bro, 14 million people have posted that same. You just copy and pasted a post and just posted it, man. It's like that's driving me nuts in the way of like, and you're totally right. Because when I got on the field, it was the mic drop moment of somebody standing up and saying, don't Olympic lift. And I was in the Olympic lifting major at that time. I was like, fuck that guy. But he was only like one person. And now it's on the way other spectrum to where if you are the person in Olympic lifting, you're the one that everybody's saying fuck you to, but everybody's saying the same bullshit over and over again. It's like, you guys aren't thinking about this. You're just following whatever Boyle is going to tell you to say,
Oh my God.
Obviously Boyle, but it's like, my goodness, it's whoever's going to retweet you in this moment, whoever you want to get retweeted by, you're just going to copy and paste whatever they say. It drives me fucking insane.
Did you see Boyle posted today that like the heaviest he'll go on a trap bar jump's like 80 pounds? Like, that's hilarious.
No, that doesn't surprise me.
Like advocated for the jump, and then like not even the one thing we're gonna. The whole. Dude, I don't understand how people take. I like Mike as a person, but I don't understand why people take ideology, because his number one goal is to get kids through his facility and bankroll cash and not get sued from getting hurt. That's not the job that most of us are in. He's training 9 to 16-year-olds, to 18-year-olds. And if he gets his business, his livelihood will go away if he gets sued in the wrong way. Do y'all not see that? That's why he bubble wraps people, man. Like, oh, we don't need to.
Can't pick dumbbells up off a dumbbell rack anymore. So,
hey, I will say this though, Will, about like, I'll touch on one more thing with Olympic lifting that I actually will agree with. Cause like I have an absolute wrecked hip right now. Like I have cam lesions, I have bone spurs, I have torn labrum, all from my playing days and lifting like an idiot in college because I didn't have a strength coach. And I loved to clean, loved it, loved the Olympic lifts, and were doing them until I got in so much pain I just couldn't handle it anymore. And if I wasn't in pain personally, I would still do them because I like them. So that's another thing with kids. The Olympic lifts make kids feel cool too. Like the stimulus is, if you say the stimulus is good, that's great, but there's value too, and kids feel like, I just accomplished something right there. Like that was not easy. I had to commit to that was used to be when I was a proponent of Olympic lifts. It was, this is not natural to a lot of people. It's a new movement. You can't just naturally, like, some kids naturally run fast. Not a lot of kids are just naturally good at Olympic lifts or clean or snatch, but they had to commit to a process, and then they see fruits of their labor. They learn how to leverage themselves into something. Like all of that's valuable. I'm not going to take away from that argument either. I want to make sure that's clear too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I'm surprised, honestly. I thought we were going to disagree a lot more. I think really what it comes down to is we disagree on, like, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to, I think. So
I
was really surprised, honestly.
Well, I will say this. I need to do a better job of portraying myself a little bit more consistently on Twitter, because I like to poke the fire and watch people burn and walk out of the building. Like I just do.
Keep doing it.
I want you to know who I'm talking to as well, Will. Like some people think that I'm talking to guys like you or a lot of college level, like another coach I respect more than anything who is a savage at the Olympic lifts is Brandon Reyes at Colorado. You're a friend of mine.
Yeah, I just saw a video of him. I just started following him.
I saw him hang clean 405 like 6 years ago at at the CSCCA, and I was like blown away because I was a GA, and I was like, I'd never thought that was possible, like, but I'm mostly talking to high school football coaches who are doing it, and I'm like, if you can't do it this way, let me show you a better way so you don't get kids hurt. You don't believe it's some magic formula when it's done horribly. There is no slow cook. It's loaded up and survive. And like not even catching the bar. Like they're still holding the bar. Like that's who my audience is. That's who my business is pushed towards too. That's who I try to help. And sometimes for engagement purposes, I throw out some hyperbole, which I understand if that's part of the business, I'm going to be taken for like the wrong way. And someone like you brings to the table, let's talk. I've literally had say the online Cody I know is a jackass. The in-person Cody I met was a great dude. Like I was like, I don't know if that's a great thing. It's just kind of what it is. But yeah, I didn't think we would when I knew we were going to go on this call, I was like, I think this is going to go better than Will thinks. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
Because it's from when you get around people who are willing to critically think, they're not narrow-minded, they're willing to hear, like truly listen, and take it for what it is. I think that's communication in general with professionals. I think that's what holds back strength coaches from developing good relationships with head coaches. Like you're trying to force your ideology on a head coach and you haven't even heard him out yet when you're going to get your chance. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole nother, like on Austin's podcast, I talked about negotiation for an hour, like why those skills were so important of communicating, and us coming and doing this is so important. I wish more people would do it. Like, hey, I believe this. Hey, I believe against it. Hey, let's do a call and then let's broadcast it to Austin's massive platform, to Will's massive platform, where thousands of people are going to hear it, at least snippets of it.
Yeah,
that takes some guts. If you truly don't want to come and talk, then you're probably going to say, hey, my internet's shot, my dog ate my homework, and duck it,
Yeah, I've had plenty of those, dude. I've had plenty of scheduled debates that just never came to be.
I'm not surprised. Not surprised.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Do you have? I don't really have any last words. Do you?
Nope.
Austin?
I think I'm good, man. I learned a lot. I feel like your points are valid. With why you believe in what you do, and another thing too, is like you walk the walk. That's another thing too. Is like you post content. You do what you do. I post content on what I do. I post data points. I post results. I do all that. It's the coaches that want to talk and say things and don't want to come to a table, but they're also not trying to, hey, I'm over here working as well, and this is what I see. Tell me why I see what I see, and let's discuss why we have different lenses or different frameworks or mental models. But I've really enjoyed this, man. This has been
Yeah,
really
I did too. I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, man, for sure.